I find that somehow by shifting the focus of attention, I become the very thing I look at and experience the kind of consciousness it has. I become the inner witness of the thing. I call this capacity of entering other focal points of consciousness love. You may give it any name you like. Love says, I am everything. Wisdom says, I am nothing. Between the two, my life flows. Since at any point of time and space I can be both the subject and the object of experience, I express it by saying that I am both, and neither, and beyond both. Biro Nisargadatta, teaching 269. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Mir. Ni hao. Buenos dias. Buenas tardes. Eseche. Akwaba. Welcome. What up, though? This is Convo with Zuri G. I am Zuri G, aka Peter Johansson Osisi. And this is a podcast about full stop. We talk about different things. It's premised based, or praised if you're premised and based simultaneously, on the experience of being mélangé, mixed heritage, multicultural, interfaith, world citizen, and globally ethic. All. So the convos are with different brethren from different walks, different lands, different words, but shared experience, shared interest, shared love, all that. Some of it further intentional and direct than others, sometimes in others, but anyways, that's the joint. This the joint. And to be honest, this convo today is with brother Akshai, and I'm lightweight tripping because I seem to think I already put this one up, but I'm without Wi-Fi at the moment, so I can't double check. So I gotta make a decision. Do I do this one as a scheduled, or do I do another one? I'm doing this one, haha. So we might have a double up. But anyways, this is a convo that I had with brother Akshai. Wow, nearly a decade ago. It's in the same Belief Brief series that other podcast joints have come from the archives. It is. So that was had to be like 8 years ago at least. Thereabouts. Anyway, so that's how long this joint is. And in this conversation, Akshai talks about his spiritual background. He and I meet actually, probably a decade ago, thereabouts, playing football at the local university. And me being a heavyweight. So since then, he's involved in a number of the same activist fronts. Native social justice. He's in Black Lives Matter, and additionally, and so we see each other frequently through the years and just chop it up, and recognizing that we have similar political convictions. We build conversation and cooperation along those lines. I think I most recently see him maybe a day or two ago, actually. He lives in the vicinity of the village. So this convo is again one of those sessions where we talk about spirituality. It's like an informative joint. There are like 5 questions, the basic format, and 5 questions, and he responds to that. He shares about his background of, as he quotes, I remember this quote, growing up with caste privilege. So it's interesting. I'm going to leave commentary, this, that, and the other for afterwards. To be honest, uncertain what I'm going to say. There's a lot to be said because Brother Akshai shares a lot. And for the moment, I'm going to leave this as the intro. Positive, compassionate, empathic, intellectual energy, Brother Akshay. Love and peace to you. My name is Peter Johansson Osisi, and this is a brief with our Sona Ashram, and we are talking with our friend Akshai Singh about his religion. And here we go. So you can adjust that. Hello. So again, namaste, Akshay. So just to get into it, what is your religion?
I was raised in caste privilege Hindu family. We're a fairly secular family, and I learned some of the basics of Hinduism. I learned, even what that is, we can talk about. But I was educated in from like 10 to 17 sporadically on a weekly Sunday school classes that were usually about the Vedic, not as even so much Vedic, but like from the same tradition down, but like mostly I think philosophy that was picked up from the Upanishads, to more modern in the context of Hindu history, poetry, as well as like the big epics in the Mahabharata, the Gita, and Ramayana. Yeah. With some family members and close friends who I learned more about Vaishnavism from through the years, but I don't think that in that sense I struggle sometimes to understand what I am in the context of is if I actually practice Hinduism, if I am a Hindu, if it's a religion at all. But I can talk about that in a subsequent question. So.
Okay. Cool. Nice. Thank you. So the next question is, when does your religion begin?
So supposedly the Vedic poems began to be passed verbally about 10,000 years ago. 12,000 years ago, BC, in the Indus Valley areas of North India, or the subcontinent, I should say. I would say that the kind of examples of what I would understand as beginning to understand like what I inherit as practice of Hinduism is probably from the post-Buddhist times and in kind of the 500 BC and 400 BC era, after kind of a lot of kind of in the same way that a lot of the kind of reformations of Christianity occurred. What was happening spiritually, I think, was probably much more influenced by a lot of incorporation of Buddhist thought to the subsequent centuries.
Cool, thank you. So, who is the founder of your religion?
I don't think there's any founder that has ever ascribed to Hinduism. The name Hindu is even kind of a misnomer. While there's a certain vein of similarity that extends across the subcontinent and the world in terms of deities that are worshipped, and some of the mythology and the stories, the idea of what a Hindu is mostly a colonial construct of the British that consisted of non-Muslim, non-Sikh, people who were who we now call Hindu, but across many castes and many practices and villages. So I will say Hinduism began in the 1850s. So.
Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. So, who or what is the highest authority within your religion?
I don't know. I think philosophically, when we step outside, so Vaishnavas might say Ram or Krishna or Vishnu. Certain devotees might say a certain deity. Some people will have people who they worship almost as prophets, essentially, like Sai Baba, or Satya Sai Baba. The different Sai Babas over the years, and the way that kind of similar to the Sikh and more Western from India, Western religions as prophetic religions that ascribe to a god. I don't think that, especially in the philosophical sense of Hinduism, that there's any highest entity, though I would argue that I had been taught almost in what I always related to the Quaker tradition was that there's a divine, there's a divinity that rests within all creations of the universe, and that that is the highest and purest quality that exists within the creations of the universe. So and that which binds us and connects us. And do feel that was an idea encouraged by the philosophy that I was taught. So, yeah.
A philosophy called?
The philosophy I was okay. That was imparted upon me through the medium of Hinduism.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Excellent. So next question. What are significant rituals or observances within your religion?
I mostly like to celebrate Diwali, the Festival of Light, and the moment to celebrate all of our all our blessings, as well as to clean ourselves for the future and to lighten our lives, lighten our homes, and warm them for guests, and to give gifts and to give love across the community. I especially like Holi, which is a celebration of a triumph of good over evil in the most fundamental sense, but where we get to throw color and colored dye, powder dye at our friends and family, and be pretty merry. Those are the main rituals. I mean, there's Janmashtami I've gone to at the temple, which is celebrating the birth of Krishna. It's kind of a Christmas-esque celebration. Yeah, this is pretty fundamental. I've always enjoyed the way that Christmas is celebrated, and then would justify it by appropriating Jesus as an incarnate of Vishnu.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a pretty easy one to do.
Well, that seems to be...
Well, and having since learned a lot more about the narrative of Jesus, I'm totally down with that appropriation.
Okay. So next question is, what does your religion teach about outsiders?
I don't think my religion recognizes the concept of outsiders, apart from those who are not oneself, right? That there's people outside of you as an entity and a sentient being, but as I said, they hold the equal sanctity of creation, and that is the fundamental truth about anything outside of your being and person, and that it's worthy of connection and understanding. And we pray for that understanding of those things which are outside of us. I would say I've culturally learned far too much from people who claim to be Hindus or people of faith about principles of outsiders and those who are worthy of violence being imparted upon them. But I do not ascribe any part of that to what I think of as Hindu philosophy. Maybe Brahminist philosophy even, but I don't equate those two things as I would, any politic and any faith. I think they're separate, even though they've been married through history.
Cool. All right, so the concluding question. What are gems that you treasure within your religion? Like teachings or experiences or...
I recently felt like I began to sympathize more with Vaishnavism when I start to understand Sanskrit a little better. There's pieces that come to me. It's a beautiful poetry, language of poetry, and when I found out that Krishna means black, it's a Sanskrit word for black or dark blue, and those are the depictions of Krishna, because as blue is when we see him in comic books. That was never made clear to me, and I only began to understand it lately. And as an American, I think it changed my relationship with blackness, with understanding what the intention is in the phraseology of black is beautiful, not only as a politic, but as a not just as a mantra, but as a celebration, and that really I think took on new contours. And that's been incredibly important to me, to liberate myself from a lot of hate that I have been conditioned and integrated to believe in, and did believe in, and I'm still dismantling. But I feel much more confident about my journey, understanding that truth better, and that I have a context within that truth, not that I'm outside of that truth. And that's been enlightening and inspiring. I usually still operate on the concept of dharma, which is, as I interpret it, a sense of duty to myself, to my family, to my community. I think that it's the only thing that it's my touchstone. It's meaning whatever, and it's never felt so much like a question that I need an answer to the guiding set of principles that ask me what it means to be the best friend. When I act outside of those impulses, I know that that's not who I wish to be and the kind of person I want to be, but it's conscience. It's a conscience and it's a duty that that keeps me. But I think it does feel tied to kind of what I was talking about before, and the duty to expand understanding. I think that is very much integrated into what idea of Dharma is. And I'm glad to say that it has changed over the years and expanded and not and has kind of been able to jettison some of the more oppressive ideas about what Dharma is. Because a lot of people see Dharma, oppression, as their Dharma, and vice versa. And I think we need to abolish that.
So thank
That's
you.
it? Okay.
Anything else you want to share?
I think a lot of I think we are still really battling the demons of caste-based suppression in America right now, in India for sure, and I think we have to be really cognizant of what that looks like. I think it took me a long time, and it's I very seldom felt like blessed to be not like present in India. I've always wanted to be more present in this land of my ancestors, but I am not. I don't feel that I've missed out on that inheritance, and understanding it now from my own inherited violence, like being separate but wholly the same, it makes me feel. Makes me finally feel. It's a long video. Okay. More connected, and less that I was ever separated in the first place, but I just didn't know that. And so it's actually made me feel the ability to not feel like I've been missing out on India, but that I've been getting to know her from here, and getting to know Pakistan from here, and that I wish that my grandfather's from Lahore, so it's places that I really wish to be in times that aren't defined by political religion. It's not religion, but it's a form of politics based off of manipulating religion, and I want to work with my brothers and sisters in both spaces and nations to never feel divided from their homes or on the other side of the line of control. Thank you.
Alright, so that's the joint. It's actually much briefer than I anticipated, given other joints I do, but it's been a while since I see that. So, one, just to explain the background noise, we record at a local coffee house. We've got a song playing here. Alright, gotta take that out. Alright, here we go. So, coffee house, don't go there these days. So I ain't saying the name too tough. That's another story. But that's the background noise, or the background blessings that we receive in that audio. And given it's been a while, again, it's been a number of years since I listened to that conversation, and I guess my memory of it is a little bit shaped by all the conversations that Akshay and I have through the years, because this one is actually less in depth than I was anticipating. One, again, is very much is brief, and he and I have an ongoing conversations for, like I said, years, over a decade at this point. But when I'm thinking of, again, when I listen to these recordings, these interviews, these sessions, is that I just think of all the things that could be asked, because obviously Akshay is an intellectual, empathic brother who is striving in this life to be compassionate and optimally benevolent, and that's evident to me just in my interaction with him, and he shares a lot of that in this conversation. When you look at his I won't say disassociation with some of his doctrinal upbringing, but to embrace causes like Black Lives Matter, social justice, native land, native sovereignty, to embrace those things just because he recognizes that as what is right, what is truthful. That is actually very much in contrast to the conservative, assimilationist kind of paradigm and guidance that many people, particularly coming from cultures within the past half century, have. There's just, man, don't cause waves, don't be controversial, know your heritage, know your history, know your tradition, learn a trade to be increasingly socioeconomically viable and prominent and influential and leveraging within society, but don't take up causes that jeopardize that limit that or detract from those advantages. And so that's like the general kind of assimilationist paradigm, at least in the past couple of generations. It's evolving, but it takes some doing to kind of break from that. And then oftentimes when a young brother or sister does break from that, it's often kind of like immersing within, well, yeah, like a contrarian kind of liberal thumbs up to everybody. Thumbs up, I mean, nose up, what is it? Raising the noses, thumbs, poking thumbs. What's that phrase? Thumbing the nose. I guess that's what it is. Thumbing the nose to all establishment, all authoritarianism, and everything. And here, in this and other additional conversations, Akshay shares a mindfulness that continues to hold on to the teachings of truth that come from his tradition as well as in the tradition of others, but then also has the courage to say that's not what's going on here in conventional society. And so, and I say that actually, to be honest, with knowledge that when he and I meet, he's actually a grad student studying finance at the university here. So that's a very lucrative type of endeavor. But since he graduates, he works for nonprofits. So I don't use the word nonprofit because that's negating the phenomenon of prophecy. So he works for benevolent organizations. So those are tough decisions, and there's a lot to be learned in his wrestling and his explanation of why he makes those decisions. And I'm saying from asking that in these convos. And again, I was working on just like a format and having some kind of regularity or whatever with the structure of the convo. So that was my guidelines. The guidelines I have for doing it was just like share this information and do it is. But anyways, when I listen to it again, that's one of the frustrations, because even to this day I still have yet to ask him a number of follow up questions about, like, so what was that? How that happen? When did you decide to do this? Why did you decide to do this? And how did this? What was the reaction? What did your parents say? What did your friends say? And additionally, so because particularly to understand how and why, and to encourage others to make similar decisions. I make the mention that everybody has their Peter Maritzburg moment. And there's another name for it as well. The realm of the foundation of the realm of one's abilities, or something like that. But Peter Maritzburg moment, and by that I mean this: Peter Maritzburg is the name of the town that is depicted in the film Gandhi, when Gandhi is kicked off the train, and he's forced to stay there overnight because he has a first-class ticket, but in South Africa they don't allow Desi brethren to ride in the first class, and so he refuses to give up his first class ticket, so he's kicked off the train. That's how the story goes. There were different reports about the validity of that story, but the point is, there's something that wakes him up and to force him to recognize that, yo, as many credentials as he has in the system, and as nice as he is, as intelligent as he is, whatever else that he has going for himself, he is not going to be recognized as equal within that system. And it can be very difficult for brethren to wake up to that, because the trappings are so intoxicating. Riches, women, wine, weed, all that. Brethren could be like, I don't have to be treated equal because look how nice I am and I'm better than everybody else who's just like me that don't have this. So it can be so easy to get caught up, and when cats get caught up, then the shackles get put on. They get dirt on them, they got debt, they got to keep up with the Joneses, then they got a wife for dudes, then they have to keep the wife happy, and the wife is accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and if you don't do it all, then it's guilt trip, and then after that, wait a minute, now you got kids, and now you got to do it for the kids. So it's so easy to get caught up in that rat race type joint. But meanwhile, there's still that Peter Maritzburg moment. And I'm not doing a self-reference. That's actually the name of the town that's shown. And I think that might be in the autobiography that Gandhi writes as well. But anyways, the point is, at some point, cats got to wake up and be like, look, no matter what I do, it ain't happening. And even now that it ain't happening, like I'm so much beyond it happening at all. Like there's so much greater than acceptance and equality within any kind of predatory system. So anyways, cats got to wake up for that, and I try to encourage as best I can in just leadership, because it's not a matter of banging cats over the head with it. But anyways, Akshai makes a decision accordingly, and it's a continual process of awakening. And so anyways, that's the consideration that I have when I hear this conversation is how does he kind of wake up and see. And he and I still have very strong disagreements. We have strong agreements, and we recognize that. But he and I had some tough convos in the past week, or actually the past couple weeks, regarding current campaigns, and additionally. And one of the things that we recognize is that we got different approaches, we got different objectives, additionally, but we also have very strong common solidarity, additionally. So it's appropriate to recognize that. And we utilize the analogy of having a teepee, back brethren, native brethren on the prairies, on the plains, having a teepee, and like we each can have our own parts of the circle within the teepee, but then there's the central part where we come together and where we gather together, chop it up, and talk about mutual agenda. What we all agree is appropriate for cooperation accordingly. So, anyways, those are some thoughts. Now, like I said, this convo was comparatively brief. Again, how many times am I gonna say that? Enough. It was brief and didn't get into a lot of details about like the issues, like all the different activist fronts additionally. So because of that, I'm going to share a story about one of the conversations, like a day of convo that Akshai and I share. So this is, again, probably over half a decade ago. And he and I attend a demonstration for our native brethren, amidst our native brethren, organized by our native brethren, in conjunction, or to change the name of the local professional baseball team away from the racist mascot. So I arrived. I think probably I might have had a drum with me, but I know I had signs with me, and also again packing over 400 pounds or thereabouts. So I arrived there, and It's early spring, late winter day. It's cold, but there are cats over there, and we do the do. Now during that session of demonstration, it's a different type of scene, and at one point, it's very interesting, and this is where it gets a little bit cosmic, actually, and that's why I share this, because it's a very kind of like otherworldly conversation, and just because of that, very few people, one, are privy to it, like experiencing or are waking conscientious of it. But there were a couple of conversations on that level that if it's extremely rare that one is privy to one, it's extremely rare for one to be privy to both. Now, I have conversations like this very frequently because I avail myself to that. But it's infrequent that I actually have those conversations with other people who actually like continue to walk with me. So anyways, that being said, this is the situation. So during that demonstration, all right, so we were there for a while, probably over an hour or two, and we're getting ready to, like, it's not near quitting time or like closing up time, but it's like we've been there for a while, and as we're there for a while, a young brother arrives. Now this young brother has got on the tzitzit. He's an Orthodox Israeli brother, an Ak, and to be honest, he was inebriated. But he's benign. He's like friendly and a little bit laughy, but he's also like denouncing the demonstration, saying, "Oh, this is not this, that, and that, the other, da 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 da." And they're all the different type of rationales people try to do. Now, for it to come from somebody who's obviously religious and like mindful of tradition, ancestry, and ethics, is increasingly disappointing. But particularly, when the person is inebriated. So, but anyways, he's still coherent enough to like talk. So he starts to get into an argument with one of the leaders, one of the leading organizers of the event, and it would just started devolving into like a back and forth of, you don't look native, and then the organizing brother says, well, you don't look Jewish. The Orthodox brother had blonde hair, and additionally, and so it was just kind of devolving to that. And at that point, I kind of interject. Now, I interject because, or I didn't step in initially because, one, I am with my standing on the totem pole amongst our native brethren is comparatively modest. So I abstain from immediately assuming the leadership role or speaking voice. I've been actually invited on a number of occasions of doing that, but I'm just recognizing my own knowledge base and modesty accordingly. So, anyways, my style of diplomacy tends to be increasingly reserved, anyways. So, anyways, when it started to get like back and forth, then that's when I intercede. So when I intercede, I kind of like cozy up to the brother who's inebriated, and to be honest, actually, I did something that's somewhat uncharacteristic because, again, the brother was jovial, like he was like, you could see he was benign, he was benevolent, but he was just like, he was just speaking somewhat ignorance, and that's, I say that with all ahava. So anyways, I actually approached him, and it was a comfortable enough vibe where actually we probably talked for a while, and I let him know about my affiliation. I'm Israel Chai, and Assalamu alaikum and Namaste and everything. So anyways, I share that information with him and start to focus the conversation on that. When I could see that he was comfortable with me and congenial with me, but still like holding on to his conviction, I invite him to talk about the parsha for that week. And I remember the parsha being, I think either Metzora or Tazria, or maybe both, or if I'm recalling correctly. But I knew it had to do with Zara'at. And so I was like, so what's the parsha of the week? Oh, right. So you know what? Like this thing of racism, it's like that affection, that skin affection. It's a disease, and we have to remove it from the camp. And in my experience, in talking to observant brethren of B'nai Israel, when we talk Torah, the tone adjusts accordingly. There's an increasing amount of rootedness and like seriousness and commitment, because a lot of people can be very intelligent and can speak very strong rationales and arguments about all different type of things without giving two shits about it, because it's so easy to do for them to do, because they're so strong mentally. And so it's like a game, like, oh well, this, that, and the other, and come up with all different types of loopholes, this, that, and the other, but not actually care about it, where the other person is struggling because they feel so strongly about it, and struggling to come up with a rationale to counter that. But when the person who has that formidable intellect is shared or is provided with something that comes from something of importance, something of sacredness within one's own tradition, now one has to be mindful. Oh, wait a minute, I have to be mindful of what I say. And now I'm not saying the brother in that instance was like BSing or whatever, but it's just a matter of like we're talking about racism and this and the other. He might not care too much one way or the other because he doesn't think it affects him that much, and so he can jest and this and the other and joke. But then when we talk Torah, oh wait a minute, now we have to be a little bit respectful. Now we have to like sober up a little bit, and he does that. He's like, oh wow, okay. So and then we continue talking about that, and he was like, you know what, this guy right here. So I'm precluded from testifying as to how that changes for him from that point, but it is a matter of like he sees things in a new light, just because I could tell that there was some type of registering within his comprehension of the conditions, and so there's appreciation for that. And again, those are my words. That's what I described about the situation. But like I said, it was a convo on another cosmic level, and the whole time Akshai was standing right there. He was like the fourth party involved in the conversation, and kind of just being like the quiet mediator. So afterwards, like Akshai and I talk about it a little bit, and I myself went, like, I talk with angels in my life, so it's an awesome experience. It's a humbling experience, but it's awesome. And when I have very spiritual conversations with brethren that are transformative for others, if other than just for myself, there's like an energy, there's an ecstatic kind of experience. And so that was one of those kind of conversations, particularly because the brothers seemed to like see the light. And so like it's like, oh, who can I share this with? And so Akshai was right there, so we talk about it. And I'm uncertain. He's less privy to like the details of the Torah to understand like what we were actually talking about in terms of like the principles and everything, but he could see like there was a transformation. So anyways, we talk about that. So that was one combo. Then after that demonstration, this whole thing is going to be way longer than the actual combo. After the demonstration, I had the occasion of taking the bus back to the domicile, the village where I live. And so Akshai was going in the same direction, so we catch the bus together. And it's a mainline bus. We get on the bus, and I have my sign still with me. And we get to the back of the bus and sit on the back of the bus, and we're just like chopping up or whatever. And a couple of people asked me about my sign. Now you can imagine like the scene on the bus is a completely different scene than the scene at the demonstration day. Demonstration day is predominantly people of European ancestry, middle class, maybe upper middle class, working class, having a certain politics, having a certain mindset, having a certain religiosity, and additionally. And so getting on the bus, guess what? It's a completely different kind of scene. It's people of African ancestry, working class to honest class, or whatever we look at as the difference of rich class, and like also a very distinct politics, a distinct religiosity, and additionally, and so a distinct reaction to like what's those signs you got there, brother? Because what kind of heat you bringing onto the bus? And it wasn't like that, but they were just looking, because I already got my beard and my my cut off T-shirt around my head. I'm trying to think what I had during those days. It was maybe like a cloth. But either way, like cats can already see almost some different type of stuff. So they're like, okay, so what's the sign about? And they asked me, they came like with respect, like, yo, what's up? So we just talk about it, and talked about like my sign probably has something to do with like return native land and native sovereignty, something like, because I care less about the mascot joint. I agree with it, but I think that's other than the priority. My priority is native sovereignty, native land, native traditions, native learning. So anyways, That's what my sign was speaking to, because the brethren, native brethren who organized it, say you can do whatever sign you think is right. So, anyways, that's what we're doing now. Brother, like, yo, what's up with that? And so I'm like, well, what do you think? I mean, this is stolen land, and everything that's built on it is built on genocide. And so, brethren of African ancestry who come from the Middle Passage have, seems, an easier ability to recognize the truth of that proclamation. And so they're like, well, yeah, but yo, so what do you plan? I mean, what's your solution, this and the other? And so we were talking about that. And so that was appreciated. And at one point, and again, Akshay is right there sitting next to me, and sharing it as well. Now, Akshay is, I think, probably increasingly proximate with the elements of that conversation, because he does organizing along those lines with the same exact constituency, including establishing or working with a public transportation cooperative. So he's at home with that. So we were talking about that for a while, and then some of the brothers who were having the conversation got off on their stop, and then I remember, like, it quieted up for maybe a minute or two, and there's a sister, probably a few years younger than me, maybe even like a decade or so, because I tend to think I'm young. But anyways, so it quieted up for a while, and everybody just kind of like mellow out or whatever, and the sister just kind of chimed up, and she said, like, yo, but what about me? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, and it was the way she said it was so genteel and sweet, and beautiful and generous and honest. Like, yo, I see this is wrong. I see I'm here through, like, wrongful conditions, but what am I supposed to do? Like, this is what I know. Am I supposed to, like, just live homeless and flee to another country? And so we talked about that, and I was like, you know, there's a place for people on this land, but it's first a matter of recognizing what right is, what the truth is, and then making contributing, supporting a process for amends and righting the wrong, including returning land and making arrangements with native brethren for continuing to live on the land according to native hospitality, native tradition, and with respect to native tradition. So I basically, that was my response to her in general, and like reassuring, because she said it's so sweet. You can't come nasty when a woman is just like tender and honest. So I reassured her, like, yo, there's a place for you. There's a place for each of us, but we have to be righteous. So anyways, that was another cosmic convo, and in one day with one other brother who shared in both. So anyways, that's the frame of reference of just some of the combos with Akshay, brother Akshay, through the years. And we have another one even just a week and a half ago, couple weeks ago. Actually, probably 3 weeks ago. Something like that. Anyways, recently. Again, there's so much about brother Akshay that goes beyond the words. It's his decisions and the thinking that precipitates their decisions, the wrestling, and the commitment, because he's been doing this tough for a decade. So you got to respect that, serious. If not for his benefit, for your own benefit. And I say that to myself as well. Mr. Everything and Mr. Nothing and everything beyond about. So that's the joint for this week. And I think I am officially over the duration of the actual convo. Congratulations. So I will share some follow-up joints on business. I mentioned before the notion of pluralism, the cuatro experiences of pluralism, the experience numero uno being multiculturalism and interfaith, which is an interest in people of different lands. Numero dos is mixed heritage, which is an ancestry from people of different lands. Numero tres is world citizenship, which is commitment to people of different lands. And numero cuatro is wealth ethos, which is discipline with people of different lands. So these are different ways in which people engage the world, the earth, humanity at large. The different affinities people have towards being with people who are different, and oftentimes historically actually not interacting with too tough with each other. World citizens having perhaps a philosophical, perhaps bourgeoisie kind of proclivities, and perhaps interacting less with multiculturalism. That might be just kind of fun, and let's go to the festival and whatever. So anyways, the point of these pluralism clubs and recognizing the cuatro experiences of pluralism is to bring all these cats together, and even just as a foundational kind of discussion group level, to sit down and like chop it up, and not a lot of pressure or whatever, just like, what's up. And from that, building, when people are inclined towards building, organically, organizationally, building. It might be a co-op. It might be an event. It might be a publication, some written material, a collection of poetry based on a shared topic of interest, a topic of shared interest. So from the discussion groups, we further strengthen our intrinsic interaction, our network, our systems, our institutions of pluralism that support each of our respective interests and experiences of pluralism. So that's what we're focusing on at this point. I might have mentioned before that we are actually cooperating with a number of other entities in establishing pluralism clubs in a number of locations. So that's one thing. The other thing is this: Pluralism Relief Agency. So in the convo earlier with Brother Bud and Brother David a number of sessions ago, probably a few months ago. The session was actually earlier this past year in the winter, but it was shared on this podcast a few months ago. Anyways, we talk about world citizenship, we talk about world social service, and we talk about World Interfaith Harmony Week. That was actually the occasion that the convo was actually convened. And so the kicker is like all of that, World Interfaith Harmony Week and World Citizenship, contributing to the experience of world social service. And so the Pluralism Relief Agency is another endeavor, a burgeoning entity that comes from that convo and that intentionality. So basically, Pluralism Relief Agency is a in the works, and the purpose is to provide services from institutions from that from the pluralistic experience of institutions. So basically, institutions that come from a pluralistic experience that are particularly in the Western society, perhaps somewhat distant from the echelons of conventional hierarchy. Full stop. Or I should say semicolon. And providing those services to people who are adversely affected by people's experience of pluralism. So basically, the support, the investment comes from traditional and cultural constituencies that experience and support pluralism. And the support is provided to people who are immersed within an experience of pluralism, any one of the cuatro. And because of that experience of pluralism, experience some kind of adversity. So it might be somebody who's mixed and or a family who's mixed, or a community that's mixed and ostracized, or outcast because of that experience of multiple ethnicity. It might be a child born in an interreligious marriage, in looking for some guidance about spirituality, religiosity. It can be people who are interested in learning about people of other nations, and are without information accordingly. That ignorance is affliction. People who make decisions to be world citizens and are politically challenged by the domestic constituencies from within which such individuals emerge. So, anyways, the actual services focus on residential cooperatives. Let's see. Trying to do all this by memory, by heart. Residential cooperatives. What else? There's another big one. I do not want to revert to notes. Well, I'm reverting to notes because I'm keeping this as succinct as possible. So, eh,